Okay, so we typically start with introductions of all the newer members that are and non-members that have showed up. That's just us. So I think what we can do is want to go around the room just really quickly and say hello. And I'll just start. My name is Mike. I am co-chair, and I want to welcome everybody to our February meeting. Jayashri.
Hi, my name is Jayashri, and I'm another co-chair, and I've been with the chapter for about 8 years or so. I forget how many years. I was treasurer before, but now I have volunteered to help Mike, so I'm co-chair. Hopefully, I'm helping him instead of making it difficult. And I pass it on to Chip.
Sure. Chip Pitts, I'm a member of the executive committee and longtime environmental and human rights activist. But I also had a vocational career as a lawyer and businessman. So I'm very interested in strategy and what works. And I've taught advocacy and ESG, corporate social responsibility, that sort of thing. So very interested to see how that's declining now, and hope that we can, get people to see the practical significance in their own lives of these essential norms.
Hand it over to.
Who are you punting to, Chip?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll toss it to Jeffrey.
Okay. I'm Jeffrey Pulis. I joined, I guess, at the beginning of COVID meetings on Zoom, because I'm over in Fort Worth. And the Dallas meetings were too far for me to travel to unenvironmental to drive over. My focus is primarily on handling climate grief and trauma. And I will pass it to Jan if she will unmute herself.
Jeffrey's also our poet laureate and cultural arbiter.
Yes.
Very
Spiritual leader.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Jan Falcona. I've been probably 6 years, lost count also. I recently took on special events. So I'll be talking about the Earth Day that we're going to be going to. And as for myself, I'm a technical writer by trade, and I just got the best job of my life in the solar industry a few months ago. So it's a company that works with solar panels. They have the inverter that converts the energy from solar, and it keeps me going. I'm so excited, and it's a local company, which I love. So talk to me if you ever decide to get yourself set up with solar. And this group has been great, even though, and I agree completely with Chip that I think everybody took a pause to do election work and other things. And I feel like people are going to come back because the good people are feeling the need to help the cause. So we're needed more than ever. That's my sermon for the day. Is there anybody else? I guess, Sarah, you're next.
Awesome. I'm Sarah, and I'm an organizer with Environment Texas, and I'm working on our Save Texas Renewables campaign.
Thank you. I have a bigger introduction for you in a little bit. Alrighty, let's see. Jayashri, Indigenous Land Acknowledgement.
Okay, give me 1 second. Let me pull it up. Okay. We, all the Climate Reality Dallas-Fort Worth chapter, acknowledge the ongoing harm caused by colonialism and white supremacy perpetuated in Texas. Indigenous communities have suffered genocides and forced removals from their lands. We recognize that all are standing on lands stolen from Indigenous people, particularly those of Kickapoo, Wichita, Tawakoni, Yumena, and Comanche in the DFW area. We are committed to cultivating mindfulness around the history of native lands and communities through continuous education, participation, and active listening. If you want to, you can check out more about this, and I'm posting the whole thing in the chat for your benefit.
Okay, and I will do an abbreviated ground rules. Climate Reality DFW chapter community ground rules are make space or take space. Try to speak for no more than 2 minutes. Speak from the I perspective instead of generalizing when possible. Practice active listening and seek to understand. Assume good intentions. Respect one another's space, time, and interest. Be willing to be uncomfortable and open to productive discomfort. Intent does not negate impact. Disagree without discord. Personal attacks and labeling have no place in our chapter. And we can accept that there is no quick fix. Here, I think the next one was speaker introductions. And welcome to Sarah. Sarah Eazzetta, am I pronouncing your name correctly?
Close enough.
Eazzetta is a field organizer with Green Corps, where she leads environmental campaigns across the U.S. on topics such as conservation, civic engagement, and protecting renewable energy. She is currently working with Environment Texas to defend against Senate Bill 318, a bill threatening Texas's clean energy future. She's a graduate of Tulane University with a degree in public health and environmental studies. Sarah has experience in advocacy, civic engagement, and outdoor leadership. She's passionate about mobilizing communities to fight for a just and sustainable energy transition. And welcome, and take it away, Sarah.
Awesome. Thank you. Let's see if I can share this correctly. Can everybody see it? Perfect. Awesome. Yeah, so my name is Sarah, and I'm the organizer with Environment Texas. So I kind of just wanted to start with like how I got into this work. So in high school, I took AP Environmental Studies, and that was the first time that I was like, whoa, this is very real and very big, and I can't believe everybody is not freaking out about this. And from that moment forward, I pretty much was like, this is something that I like want to spend a lot of time learning about and like feel like I have to do something about it. So I went to school at Tulane and I did public health and environmental studies, and I really enjoyed both of those. New Orleans is a very interesting place to do environmental studies. There's a lot going on in that area. But I did feel like the majority of my classes really focused on the problems that we face and like pushed you in the direction of doing research about the problems. And to me, it kind of always seemed like we had solutions to a lot of the problems, they just weren't being implemented. So I really wanted to work on like, how do we actually put the solutions in place that we have? And then my senior year, I finally took policy classes, and that's when I was like, okay, this is how you do it. And I had a guest speaker come in that just briefly talked about his work with Environment Massachusetts, and I was like, that sounds really cool. I really like what he's doing. And he just mentioned that he had done Green Corps, so I applied and now I'm doing it, which is pretty cool. Yeah. So I am going to tell you a little bit more about Environment Texas for some context. So we are a local nonprofit working for clean air, clean energy, clean water, wildlife, open spaces, and a livable climate. And we really focus on putting our members across the state, putting the grassroots support behind all of the research and advocacy that we do. So some of our previous wins, in 2010, Environment Texas and some other organizations filed a lawsuit against Exxon for 16,000 violations of the Clean Air Act. And just this past November, it finally resulted in a $14.25 million civil penalty after years and years of appeals. So that was really exciting. And then in 2023, we also secured $1 billion for the Centennial Parks Conservation Fund, which provides funding to expand Texas state parks. And then also in 2023, we defended renewable energy from numerous attacks in the legislature. Yeah, so now I kind of just wanted to acknowledge like where we stand right now. The landscape of renewables has definitely shifted in the last couple weeks alone, and it's probably going to be very uncertain moving forward. And it's just generally a very challenging time for renewable energy. especially considering the executive order, which targeted offshore wind, which is something Texas was considering. But the good news is that Texas is primarily a private property rights state. So generally speaking, executive orders can't dictate how private property is used and can only dictate federal government land and funding. And then the other good news is that Texas has a long history of people coming together in support of renewable energy. George W. Bush was actually the first governor to adopt a renewable energy mandate in the US, which is pretty cool. And then also the economics of clean energy just makes sense. It lowers consumers' costs. So we have that in our back pocket, which is very good. So today I wanted to focus on how we are going to stop bad policy from going through. But before I get into the policy part, also just want to acknowledge the problem, which all of you, I'm sure, are very well aware of what's going on. But climate change is only getting worse, and we really need to be doing a lot more than we are. There was a study at UT Arlington that found between 2041 and 2050 that the Dallas-Fort Worth area can expect to experience temperatures in excess of 120 degrees on an annual basis, which is pretty wild. And we also know that it leads to more extreme droughts, extreme weather events like hurricanes, rising sea levels, and so many other things. And then another big thing is that it'll lead to a lot of biodiversity and species lost. And then additionally, unfortunately, a lot of these industries that burn fossil fuels also contribute to bad air quality, which altogether affect our infrastructure, agriculture, as well as human health. And because of this, we really need to start transitioning. But unfortunately, we are moving in the wrong direction. So now I'm going to tell you a little bit about a specific bill that we're working against. So last legislative session was in 2023, and Senate Bill 624 was proposed by Senator Kolkhorst. And if that were passed, it would have made it nearly impossible to get any permitting for renewable energy. And this session, SB 819 was introduced almost immediately, and it's very similar to the last one. It's just a little bit more extreme. So if this were passed, it could almost entirely stall renewable energy development across all of Texas. So some of the key provisions, one is discriminatory permitting requirements, which unfairly target wind and solar. And then there are also discriminatory fees and reviews, which impose cleanup fees and environmental impact reviews only on renewables. And then there's also setback requirements. So wind turbines would be required to have a setback of 3,000 feet, which is over half a mile. And oil and gas wells only have a setback of 467 feet, which is pretty wild. And then there's also the elimination of tax incentives, which would make these projects a lot more expensive and less competitive. And then there's also just some broader legislative attacks. There are proposed restrictions on battery energy storage systems, requirements for 50% of ERCOT's energy to come from dispatchable power sources, and then bans on offshore wind interconnections and increased taxes on solar generators.
Sarah, what is a dispatchable? What do you mean by that?
Yeah,
Dispatchable power sources.
That's been a big thing. So dispatchable is essentially like wind and solar are not dispatchable because the sun has to be shining, the wind has to be blowing, and like the battery storage systems aren't to the capacity that they are considered dispatchable, which is like a big term that they use to kind of discriminate against renewables.
Thank you.
Cool. So then these are some of the like common concerns about renewable energy. One of the really big ones is land use. Big solar projects take up a lot of land, and a lot of people worry about the impacts that that'll have on wildlife and pristine habitats, which is a very real thing to consider. But unfortunately, instead of finding a balanced solution that would allow for growth while also being sustainable and permitting wisely, they're really aiming to just halt progress entirely. And then there are also some solutions that we have to this, like in the picture, that's dual use solar. So it allows for farming and solar generation on the same land. And then we also have rooftop solar, which is a great option. And the goal overall is, of course, to protect the natural spaces and especially native areas like Blackland Prairie. But we also really need to move in the direction of renewable energy. So then another concern is bird collisions and wind turbines, which has been a very big one recently. But we do have solutions for this. Some include radar systems that pause turbines when birds are detected. And then also just a fact to throw out there is that fossil fuel plants kill 20 times more birds than wind farms do. And another thing is that the Audubon Society just released a really big report, and it essentially found that if we don't implement renewable energy, climate change will devastate the bird populations more than these wind turbines do right now. And then the last one that's really common is just concerns about the reliability of renewable energy, especially after Winter Storm Uri. A lot of blame got placed on renewables when really that was not the problem. And then luckily battery storage is also rapidly improving, which ensures power availability when the sun isn't shining and the wind isn't blowing. And then renewables are also really important for other reasons. So one being the economic value. It creates a lot of jobs for Texans. It's one of the fastest growing labor sectors in energy. It's also profitable, and due to continued cost declines and technology improvements, investors favor renewables over other energy sources. And then also, depending on how it's funded, renewables return on investment is proven. And it also provides revenue for landowners and local governments. It also is really valuable to the grid. Renewable energy sources combined with energy storage enhance grid stability and ensure power availability during extreme weather events like Winter Storm Uri. And then distributed energy resources like rooftop solar reduce grid strain by generating and delivering power at the point of need. And then, of course, there's also environmental value. It improves air quality and also reduces water stress because they require a lot less water. Yeah, so the goal of the campaign is, of course, to stop SB 819. We are hoping to educate Texans and demonstrate long-term support for wind and solar energy. So we're organizing across 3 key kind of areas. So the first one is grassroots mobilization. This is really focused on getting petition signatures and driving calls to state legislative offices, and then building a strong coalition. So we're working to secure endorsements, especially one thing I kind of glossed over. Last session, they did a really good job getting a lot of conservation groups on the anti-renewable side because of all of the land use claims and the wind turbines. So we really are focused on working with conservation groups and just trying to hear them out and like find a way that we can meet in the middle and like just decide that completely stopping renewable energy is not going to be beneficial for anybody long term. So that's a big part of this campaign too, is really just like working with conservation groups and seeing what their thoughts are and trying to just educate people on how important renewables are. And then also hosting bigger events like panels and things like that, probably a webinar. And then media, working to organize press conferences, generating news coverages. And then we're also doing a big push for letters to the editor, which we actually are doing tomorrow from 6 to 7 p.m. on Zoom if people want to join for that. It's a great way to get media attention and also just get the attention of legislators. So yeah, anybody have questions?
I would like to know if you have any specifics on the conservation groups. I know there's a lot of front groups, I'll just use that term, that kind of pretend they're conservation groups, but they actually have hidden agendas and are funded by. So what, anything specific you can fill us in on those?
It's actually interesting because there are quite a few like very real conservation groups that have these concerns. I think a lot of the time it seems like the conversation has just, they feel like we're not acknowledging that there are impacts to renewables, and I think it's kind of like pushback in that they're like, you need to listen to that this is a problem. But there are also like, we already have a couple conservation groups that are like working to oppose the bill too. So it's kind of all over the board.
Sarah, are you guys going down en masse to Austin? This is a state initiative, correct?
Yes, it is. We went to Austin like the second day of the session and like gave them our agendas and talked about this one a little bit. And we'll definitely be back too.
Mhm. Okay.
But I think one question was whether you were planning on having a en masse lobby event with trying to generate, a lot of people showing up in Austin.
Yeah, I think we will be having one like probably closer to the end of March or beginning of April. We're also hoping to have people like meet with representatives in the Dallas area too.
Also, Sarah, can you share all this, the different kinds of lobbying or meeting that your group is going to be doing? Can you share it with our chapter so that we can distribute it among our members? And secondly, you said tomorrow you're going to do something on Zoom.
Yes.
Would you be able to share that Zoom link?
Yes, I will. And I also just dropped in the chat the Google
Oh.
form to sign up for it, but I'll
Okay.
also send it over.
That's great.
Thank you.
Has there been, I guess, any specific elected officials down there that, like, if there was an ally that we need to reach out to, and the opposite also, like, who's the one we should really focus on
Yeah.
getting calls? Is there a committee right now, or?
Yeah, they just determined the committee assignments like a couple days ago. So we're targeting Chia and then also Yvonne. What's her last name?
What's the committee called, do you know?
I think I want to say it's affairs, but I'll get back to you. But there's 3 reps in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that we're targeting.
Yeah, that would be super if we had the list of who we need to
Yeah.
target in addition to our just normal representatives.
Yeah,
I think
we
we
could-
can put this routinely in our newsletter. We've got hundreds
Yeah.
of people that receive our newsletter that are chapter members, and they would be very interested in this. And I think it could be rejuvenating in a lot of ways. That's a great, you have a great
Action.
plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm also thinking we're going to have a table at the Oak Cliff Earth Day, and we could hand out a flyer. If you had like literature, like a 1-page, what is this bill and who to write to or who to call.
Yeah, we could definitely get that over.
Yeah, that'd be great because people come by and they're interested and they might not want to join our group, but they might take that and run with it.
Right. Yeah.
In fact, you guys, does your group ever do anything, have a personal presence at events like that?
I think we'll be there.
Oh, really? That's great. Okay. Well, we just got an invitation to a Grand Prairie Earth Day
Oh,
event
really?
on April 19th. That's a Saturday after the Sunday, the 13th for the Oak Cliff thing.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So that's out there if you guys are looking for more
Yeah, that
events like that. I was pretty impressed with last year that so many random people came by and, had an interest.
At the Grand Prairie one?
Well, I have not been to that, but the Oak Cliff when we were there last year, whether they joined or not, I just felt like it was such a good chance to reach out to the local community.
Right.
Very cool. Hey, well, since I'm interrupting, I can't help but ask, you said something about fossil fuel development kills birds, and I was thinking, well, how does it kill the birds?
I think that part of that is just like pollution. Like,
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah,
I wasn't
pollution,
sure.
global warming.
Well, I know all that does it. I just didn't know if like the process of drilling,
to the buildings or something.
I don't know. Okay. Because I love it when the climate deniers say things like, oh, well, the windmills kill birds. I would love to have some facts to hit them back with, like how exactly do 20 times more birds die from that? I'd like to know.
I can also send the Audubon report because it was really interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that will be interesting. So could you share your contact if you don't mind, Sarah?
Of course.
Because those of us who have more questions or want to like kind of get more information from you, we can reach out. Can we do that?
Yes, I'll put it in the chat.
Thank
Yeah, I'm really curious on the conservation group. So if you don't mind following up with me, I'd love, I mean, if you know any offhand you'd like to say out loud, please do. Otherwise, then I'll trade another email with you gladly because you know it's nice to reach out directly to those interested outside of, hey, I'm an elected official working on this, but who's talking in their ear and what are their main issues? Because even in your picture, there's other land use planning methods. We don't have to just think of open space that's at risk. We have parking lots on rooftops beyond in every city that can be used. So
Yes, exactly. I was thinking the same thing. Like, and we need the shade anyway. It would be a win-win, to cover open parking lots and things. Yeah.
are there any other questions?
Well, okay, I do have a question. And this is based on my workplace. I've only been there a few months, but a couple of years ago, they were in Plano and they had solar panels on the roof of their building because they're in the solar industry. But they've moved from Plano to Allen and they're having this bureaucratic nightmare that they're getting, approval to just put the solar panels on the ugly old, warehouse building we're in. Have you had any local experience with, the local zoning that hinders these renewables?
I haven't heard too much about it just because like I just moved here but I know I have definitely heard conversations about like depending on what district you're in, even just like how much you get paid back for your solar, it like differs in each part.
Wow.
So yeah.
Yeah, it just seems like I'm just surprised that it's localized and not a state, consistent
Right.
policy. It's yet another impediment. Okay, just wondered.
Sure.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you happen to know more about what happened to this fusion of Eazzetta solar. I haven't looked into it, but you heard about it shutting down, right? The largest one, I think, in the
Yeah,
US.
I haven't looked into it yet either, but I definitely will be.
Yeah, let us know if you have any insight into that. And another totally kind of off the wall, unrelated question is just generally how you see the the whole environment progressing, given that China is such an important player and there's so many geopolitical questions going on with the current administration shifting from a hawkish, federally shifting from hawkish, but it tends to cascade down to our state politicians that emulate the federal positions on so many issues. A hawkish stance on China in the first term to now, having a pretty strong sympathy for all of these global autocratic
Right.
people, including, those who, like we were informed today, have a king. So I'm wondering what you think of as the impact on solar in particular, renewables generally, in terms of the international trade and the sort of geopolitical, status. It's obviously very uncertain, but
Yeah, I don't know if there's like any answers right now. I feel like everybody's just kind of trying to figure out what's going on. Um, but yeah, I really have no idea.
it's
It seems
a
like,
lot of turmoil. Yeah.
yeah, I think a lot of people though are like hoping that the states will step up and like take on leadership.
Right,
And some of them will, without a doubt.
right. Some of them are,
Yeah.
because China contributes almost all of our solar equipment, to our economy. It'll cost a lot more if that gets tariffs or that, trade gets shut down. It'll cost a lot more for us. And do you know they have EVs there for $9,000, but those are not allowed to be sold here.
If there's any other questions, or we will wrap up this segment. Okay, thank you so much, Sarah.
That was
And
great.
you are welcome to stay on with us, but I know you're probably busy, so we won't be offended if you have to drop off.
Thank you, Sarah. Really good information.
Thank
Fantastic.
you, Sarah. It was really informative and really loved all the information.
Thank you, guys.
And I want to say hello and welcome to Tony. Tony, would you care to introduce yourself? Just a brief introduction. You're muted if you are talking, Tony.
No mic.
Oh.
Okay. Can you type in just where you're from? Are you part of DFW community? And are you one of our chapter members? Is this your first time joining us? Care to type whatever you'd like, please. Okay, and in the meantime, then, friends, we will continue with our agenda. Yeah, thanks, Tony. I really appreciate you doing that and stopping in to check in with the chapter. Now, if you can answer too, do you receive our monthly newsletter? And if not, we'd be glad to get your information and add you so you get the March newsletter. Okay. And you can send that to Jayashri. She has her email address up there, I think, since you joined, so you can send it to one of us. Oh, you are subscribed. Awesome. And I was going to put mine up too. Okay, so as you all know, we are in an election cycle for our leadership positions. And that is the next topic in our agenda. Okay. Since part of our executive committee is not here, what I'd like to do, though, since we are being recorded, is we can just give a brief introduction of ourselves. And what I will state also for the record is everybody that is currently in leadership in the executive committee has agreed to continue in that role. So we will have a slate of the current team moving forward. That being said, we are also officially looking to build our team on a number of open positions, as you all know. And we are also interested in, mentoring and working with someone, even if you're not willing to take on one of the roles that is either open or even currently has somebody in. We're looking to mentor with and work with someone to have I guess more of a complete team, some redundancy in the chapter. So we have a complete, we can be more thorough and efficient. And if somebody wants to take a vacation, somebody else can step in without skipping a beat. So that's the goal for 2025. Okay. And then our positions, Tony, you probably don't see this because we had if you want to, I'll copy and paste it again so you can.
I did. I just did.
You just did. Okay. Thank you. All right. So would anybody, let's see, Jan, I did have a question. Jan has actually stepped up beautifully as our events person.
Oh.
And I did want to ask, because I think our last conversation, though, you did not want to be on the executive team. You're happy to do events. I just want to clarify that, though. Do you want to be on the, official events committee chairperson?
Sure. I love that feeling of power. Yes. I need a title.
Hey,
You've got it.
Such a great group. Well, I think I'm going to be doing this anyway. So yeah, sure. Thank you.
Okay, then we'll start with you. If you just want to give a brief self-introduction, and we'll just go around. And Jeffrey, you two, I know your position is not on the executive committee, but in this sense, since there's only 5 of us here, if you want to give your introduction too, that'd be great. So Jan.
You want me to introduce myself?
Yes, please.
Sure. Jan Falcona. I've been here 6 years. I'm going to be doing the events for our group, and we have one coming up April 13th, Oak Cliff Earth Day. We did it last year and it was a lot of fun. And I hope everybody will come out for an hour or two and go to the fair. It's wonderful. And it's a good chance to, get some new members, reach out to the community. And oh, by the way, by default, I have the largest closet available. And so I ended up with all the materials for our group: posters, a projector, a big old projector screen, a box, a huge, like 1 or 2 boxes of t-shirts, flyers, little business cards, all this stuff. So I'm all set to decorate our booth at the fair. And I'm also going to bring all the swag, so anybody who's in the group can come by and get a t-shirt if they need it, or cards if they need them. So that will be great.
Thank you. Asher?
You want me to introduce myself?
Yes,
Okay.
I know we did it at the beginning, but
Hi,
now we're
stranger.
candidates, so.
Okay. Hi, strangers. So this is me, Jayashree Prasad. I am nominating myself for co-chair with Mike. And I didn't introduce my background. I'm a scientist, basically. I used to be in university working on genetics, research, and education. And then last few years before retiring, to give back to the community, I joined teaching, Teach for America. It's an organization, now it's worldwide, to teach underprivileged children, especially in inner city schools. And God, that was tough. That was the toughest part of my life, teaching in physics in high schools to high school students who are least prepared. And I keep seeing, I left it because my health was going down. Otherwise, I love teaching. Even that 1 or 2 student who was interested in class, but it is challenging, guys. It is like being a jail keeper. Unfortunately, I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. But because of lack of discipline, core values, and so many things that teachers have to do, it was very tough. I was forced to resign, like my health condition, my doctor said. So I resigned, but then I went back to be, like, I love the students though. So I went back to as a substitute teacher and said, Miss, you're gone. Okay, you're coming. Why can't you be here? We love. I said, no, I'm glad. I'm just too old to teach. So I made some excuses. I continued, but during COVID, after COVID, like 21, I think I finally retired. And so then I'm taking up a lot of other non-profit like organization work or, volunteering. And I'm trying to be active in Plano, and I learned a lot, which I will share later on in the update section. A few things that have found out that we can utilize for our benefit. So that's me. I think anything else should I say? That's all. I've been with the chapter. I was trained in 2019, not 17 at Pittsburgh. And ever since I have been with the chapter, learning and growing.
And Jayashree, also the book club. You've
Oh
been doing-
yeah, I am a chair. Oh, by the way, those who were I am sending the information for you to re-enroll, because a lot of people move away and they never bother to inform me. And then I send the emails, as I always, for information every month. And they say, oh, I have moved. Why don't you stop me? Well, how do I know that you have moved unless you let me know? So those simple things of courtesy would help. So I'm going to send out a general email again. Those of you who want to, and I will send this to Paula so that those one, if you want to continue, please show me your commitment. Otherwise, I'm going to drop them. Thank you. And I'll continue the book club.
Jeffrey, quick intro, and if you wanted to self-nominate, now would be a great time to do it.
Oh, well, yes, I am Jeffrey Pulis. I told some of you I just celebrated my 75th birthday. In the the classic Hindu stages of life. You start in a student stage and move into a householder stage, and then you become a forest dweller. I entered the forest dweller stage, and I worked a variety of jobs. I was a community transportation planner and consultant, and I worked for DART for 6 years as innovative service development manager. And have all in a previous incarnation, I was a professional student until the age of 36. Ended up with a PhD in ethics, society, and personality, where I studied Christian nationalism, which is now rearing its head again. And since my retirement, I've been for about the last 6 years, I've been studying and way back in another incarnation, I was a dancer with the Pilobolus Dance Company, and didn't end up going that direction. But I've done a lot of work on somatic therapies for healing collective and personal trauma, and that's the piece that I was trying to do something with here in the chapter. Some somatic practices, and I'm being very busy still pursuing my student. Now I'm studying for my final exams, so to speak.
Awesome.
I'm sure you'll get an A+.
That's end thought. That's this. I've learned to do that in the Zoom.
Okay.
Pass it on to whoever next.
Chip, go ahead, please.
Okay.
And thank you again, Jeffrey. As an integral part of our team of self-care, your closings bring a lot of weight, and are I think we all look forward to hearing from you every month. So thank you, Chip.
Very true. And I didn't know you were in Pilobolus. I love dance. My mom was a dancer, and I still go to dance concerts regularly, including with other members of our chapter here. So that's wonderful that I've seen them several times, and that's a fantastic group. I'm Chip Pitts. I'm happy to continue in the member at large position, where I basically am a lawyer, businessman, and activist in the environmental, human rights, social justice areas all my life. Lifelong member, for example, of Amnesty International, and chair of their board and a number of other boards. And I founded a few organizations, nonprofits, here and in other countries, and taught leadership, advocacy, corporate responsibility, human rights, public international law, and have a textbook and a number of articles in those areas. So governance and being available for the institutional memory of the chapter. I've helped with our strategy at different points. And that's something I'm really interested in and continue to think about, is how do you get results, including in what's becoming a very hostile environment here in the United States, where our basic freedoms that allow us to protest, to have accountability, now with our ethics structure, not just climate change, but it impacts climate change, but the anti-corruption, pro-ethics infrastructure of the US has been quite devastated just in the last few weeks, sadly. And so we need checks and balances. We need transparency and accountability. And that's one of the things, those are all principles of good leadership for NGOs and corporations. Counter to that is the corruption and deception that bad actors like the fossil fuel companies historically, or the tobacco industry, or bad governments, around the world, the autocratic governments that hide things and profit, and their oligarchs profit at the expense of the ordinary members of the public, against the common good. Those are the things that really drive me and have been my passions throughout life. sometimes I've been in the leadership of startups and multinationals, but always, trying to advance those purposes by advancing good technologies, not technologies that are fraudulent or don't have their promise or that are excessively risky. Artificial intelligence, for example, being one. It has a lot of positive potential, including in this area, but it can be very, very risky. And so I'm on the side of uplifting the positive and having guardrails against the negative. So, if it's desired, I'm happy to serve again as the member at large, to be available as that sort of resource on governance questions and strategy and sort of institutional memory about what we've done and what other organizations have done in terms of effective advocacy, including in hostile conditions.
Thank you. Okay. And then my name is Michael Henkel, and I will self-nominate again for co-chair. Happy to serve the chapter in that role. And a little bit about myself. And let's see, a political science major, and got my initial feet wet in the environmental movement back in college in the late 80s. And even before that, as a kid growing up on Clearwater Beach, Florida, I think that, conservation has always been on my mind. In my 20s, I ran for office for the first time. I ran for a state house position in Florida. And I think my core message has always been environmental, clean air, clean water. And, regardless of a political party, I think, it's hard to argue with quality of life that having, clean air and clean water brings us. And so when we break down, some of our arguments to people, I try to bring it home to that, what is pollution really? Besides, okay, it can kill us early. Well, how, and how does that affect our kids? And what about the next generation? So I'm not sure where I picked this up. I might give myself credit, or I may have taken it. I can't remember, but one of my favorite sayings goes something like this. Let's see, 7 generations have come and gone, and here we stand today, recipients of the wisdom and wanton of yesterday. So we have groundwork to lay, we have future generations to take care of. And that's why I'm here, and I'm passionate about this role and our group. And moving forward, we know we have a challenge with from national, state, and local levels. There are many ways we can be involved, and I'm honored to be part of this group. So. Alrighty, and so on the agenda we have, let's see if I corrected, it looks like we have any final discussions about voting and voting procedures. I think we published it in the last newsletter. We talked about it extensively. Any questions, or should we do a quick recap of where we're at?
Chip wanted to say something.
Well, I just wanted to make sure Tony had an opportunity. If he had
I'm sorry. Thank you.
questions.
Yeah, I think Tony said he was having a problem with his microphone, but
Mike.
So he'd have to type them. He has them.
yeah, thank you, Chip. I didn't mean to ignore you, Tony, but please type in anything if you have questions or comments, okay?
Yeah.
And okay, so I think where we're at with elections then is this was another announcement of where we're at for our candidates on our current team, plus Jan. And then I have one more person who I will self-introduce. Well, I will introduce her for myself. Let's see, Lisa, she reached out to me earlier and said she could not make it because she got sick this morning. Not to talk, I'm sorry, I shouldn't talk about everybody's health. However, she wasn't feeling good and knew she probably was not going to be able to make the meeting. She joined me at, let's see, there was a national leadership meeting a couple weeks ago, and that helped her solidify that she'd like to be part of our chapter. She graduated, I think it was October, the last virtual leadership training, our national level. So Lisa Cheng was originally from Taiwan. She used to be an oral pathologist and a teacher. Oral pathology is the study of diseases occurring in the mouth, and it is a subspecialty in dentistry. She started learning about Climate Reality Project in 2024, finished her training in October. She is familiar with taking meeting minutes, and it's something she is familiar with from past experience, wants to contribute to the teamwork and accomplish something positive locally for the urgent issue of global warming and environmental protection. So reaching out to say thank you to Lisa for stepping up, willing to be in our secretary. Okay. So
Great.
almost forgot about Lisa, but thanks again to Lisa and to Jan for stepping in. So, and that's where we're at. I think we have till the end of the month for anybody else who would like to nominate themselves for any position. If we have to go to an election procedure, then Jay and Shri and I have agreed to work that out and about which method we will use to hold an election. Otherwise, we have advice from national on how to proceed, but basically, I think, is that what we agreed on? Do you remember, Jayashri and anybody else? I think we were leaving nominations open till the end of this month. Mostly so if we had any edits to put in the newsletter, they could get in there and we would cut off. Is that y'all's recollection?
Yeah.
Any questions or comments on the election? Okay. Then let's see, our next item in the agenda are committee reports. Jan, you mentioned some in your self-introduction. Can I just ask you to go ahead and go first? And then I had one more to add, which I did not send you an email.
Oh, okay.
But Jan.
Yes. Hi, y'all. Again, about the next event we're going to be doing Sunday, April 13th, Oak Cliff Earth Day. Be there. It's really fun. And even if you don't want to volunteer, it's a neat event. Highly recommend. It's fun. They have food trucks and they have performances. It was so much more than what I expected. So the other thing is Mike forwarded me that we have been invited to participate in the what is it? Not Grapevine, Grand Prairie Earth Day the following Saturday, April 19th. It's also 12 to 5, I believe. I just wanted to get a temperature, check to see if people feel up to doing another one. I'm certainly up for Oak Cliff. I think I'm up for the following Saturday too. I'm not out of town or anything. If I had somebody else who was willing to do it with me. So think about that. But I just think it's a really good opportunity. I have no idea what the attendance would be at this Grand Prairie thing, but there might be a whole different crop of people out there that we could reach out to. So, I'm going to put up a spreadsheet, a Google Sheet for signups. We have a new member, Linda, who already signed up for a shift. So she's, I think she's attended in the past, but anyway, she emailed me that she couldn't come tonight, but she's already signed up. So y'all just keep that in mind. And I guess I'll just put out an email when that Google Sheet is available. I guess we have a little time for that. Like maybe next month by March, we could put it out there or something. Next meeting, maybe by the next meeting. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
Could you send the Google form by for the newsletter so that everyone can have access?
Definitely. Yeah. Right, Jayashri. Good point. I should do it in time for the newsletter.
Oh, and
Good.
no, Jan, you may not have seen that, but we had a moved up date of newsletter submissions. Does anybody remember? I think it was this
Yes. February 22nd.
Oh,
But if you want some new information, with the regular stuff, but she said she will till March 1st, I think she will, because there's hardly any days. Today is
Oh my
19,
gosh, that's
so we
right.
have
Yeah.
9 days left. So she'll wait. I mean, she will keep it like open till March 1st. but she would love to have stuff by February 22nd. All.
Okay, that would help her. I'm sure it's too much of a rush for her if we wait till the end of the month. Thanks for telling me. Yeah, I should be able to
Yeah,
get something.
and I'm
to
sorry,
her.
we could give her a heads up. If you don't have it together yet, you could still give her a heads up.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, so can I just take a straw poll? What do you guys think about the Grand Prairie event?
I was just looking at my calendar. Let me check if that I have anything for 19th April. For Oak Cliff, I will definitely go. I have gone ever since we started participating. That's from 2021, we've been participating.
I will most likely be able to do Oak Cliff with you, and we have a trip. We don't have a definitive date we're leaving yet. However, that Saturday for Grand Prairie might be the day we're leaving, so I'll have to get back to you.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not 100% sure about the dates. I just glanced at my schedule, but for now, I mean, even if you can't make it, do you guys think that we should have this on our calendar as an event?
Yeah.
Yes, even if we're not
Publicize
doing
it.
a table, absolutely.
Yeah, as a
Okay.
possibility, others might be able to join.
Okay, I'll put it out there. The worst that can happen is nobody can make it. But as I told Mike last year, even if it's just me in a lawn chair with the cards, that's better than nothing.
The one
So,
I did not send you, Janet, I'm sorry, it was there was another event also, Earth Day, which was I don't think it conflicted with either of these two. However, it was at a smaller city. I can't recall the name of it, but it looked to be about an hour to an hour and a half drive, if not a little further, east of us, southeast of
oh,
Dallas. So it just looked like we probably wouldn't be able to do that one. So I responded I'd get back to them, but I'll send you an email about that one.
okay. Maybe some of our members live out that way. Who knows?
You never know. We can put it in the events also. And
Yeah.
do you have anything else to close out your events?
That's all I have that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's see. So we're in announcement. I'm sorry.
I
Yeah,
wanted to say something.
Good,
two
because it's your
reminders.
turn.
No, since we are moving on, I thought I'll remind. So one thing, I don't know, I always follow the rules. So I got this email. Once probably you informed that I'm on the executive committee, that they have a new policy, the national, about those, especially in executive committee, members have to go through a background check because it seems it's a big deal that we do deal with youth, like young members who are part of school or college, young college. So there are some rules that they need to follow. So those who are executive committee members, they have to go through that background check. And so they sent me this form to fill out, which I did. And then I got a link to some third party, and I was confused because, with all these deportation and whatnot, you get so many spam and all kind of people threatening you and all because I have a foreign name. So I was hesitant to go ahead and complete it. So I wrote to Rosalind, to ask her to confirm if that's actually. So she said, yes, you're using a third party. So for me, the last day is today. So I have to, after this, finish it. But as you guys are confirmed, you will get those links to complete it. So don't be surprised. That is now a normal part of this. And second part that I wanted to say was, for our executive committee meeting or small group meeting, I found out that there are study rooms and bigger rooms at libraries in Plano. There are 5 places, and I checked it out. I reserved. You have to only get 2 days before you can book it, and they are free. If you are a Plano library card holder, it's free to you. So you can hold a meeting, have small snacks and all in it. That's possible. So it could be as small as 6 members or as bigger one. So for bigger rooms, I have not filled out and checked it out for myself, but for say 14 people, we can very easily do it. So that's a room freely available to us if possible with less members. Yeah.
To clarify the timing, I think they want to do the background check before someone actually takes office as an executive committee member, right? So it would, ideally, there would be a time between the election and the assumption of office, or?
That's what I was thinking, because I don't know why I was sent. I was asked to fill out a form, which I did because I used to be executive committee and now I'm co-chair, and probably Rosalind knows it. So I don't know how, but it clearly says, and I have the, if you guys, I don't know if you guys received. If I received it, I'm sure all the executive member must have received it. If
My
you're executive
understanding, yeah, and that's why I think I asked you earlier if I couldn't find it. So
I have it. I'll tell you if you are interested, although I'm asked not to forward it to, I received it on February 7th.
okay, that's perfect. That's all I need.
Yeah.
It's the Green Schools campaign is, as that launched, I guess last year or before that, they had already recognized that a lot of youth are coming to us.
Yeah.
And so whether you're on the committee or running or about to be on the committee, I'm sorry, the executive committee, we cannot be executive committee members unless we complete that training. National will not recognize a leadership team member that has not been trained. So we would be ineligible if we don't finish that. We don't do that. So Jan, we'll get you added to the executive team email.
Right.
And then if I can get that link, we'll work with you, Jayashree, outside of this meeting, and we'll make sure everybody's got the link to get signed up.
So they will be sent directly, each member, because I was specially asked that it is individually tailored or
okay.
something. So I
Yes, you
thought I'll
said
forward it to all of you, and then while I was reading, it says not to share it.
What was
So
that date again? I think I saw the same one.
7th February.
7. Okay. And then you're right. I think it did say that. So
It
what we'll
says
do is
chapter
I can reach out to
something.
Rosalind and ask her to send it to you directly from National.
Yeah.
Is it
So that's what I
made like-
wanted to. Yeah,
Did you
sorry,
get
go
one,
ahead.
Chip?
No, and I would have been suspicious because it does sound like it could have been a phishing thing, but she confirmed it with Rosalind, so it's not. And it makes sense as a vetting measure, but then you also referred to some training, which also could make sense. And we've actually done that at a lot of NGOs. I've been through those trainings
Yeah.
more times than I'd like to remember, and I've taught them. And it's not a bad idea, but we would need the name and the address. There'd be it's like an FBI background check
Yeah,
in government,
is.
which, used to
Absolutely.
be a standard thing. That's actually gone by the wayside for some of these nominees, sadly. And I think, though, they would need the information now in sufficient detail to just run it by a database to make sure you're not
Yeah.
on the predators database or something, if the concern is about youth.
Or any kind of criminal thing, because I have already got it done when I was in university dealing with students or even
Yeah.
school. So I have nothing to hide.
Like an employer background check is probably the sort of approach they use. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'll just finish it, because since we all have to do it, I might as well complete it today.
We will have to give them the name, contact information for the
That I did. They sent
the
me a
candidate.
form. Yeah, so I filled that form and then I got this link from Checker.
We'll
or
need to
something.
give it for all the candidates, including
Yeah,
Lisa.
so
Yeah.
you will get it, don't worry.
Yeah. Let's see.
wait.
I'm going to ask us to move on.
Yeah.
Chip, we're in announcements and committee report. Do you have anything you would like to add for, your at-large status report?
No, I think y'all are aware of some of the stuff I've been up to. Like I did a blog post for the chapter last month, and the problem is right now there's this big issue of trying to find positive things that will keep people motivated, inspired. And I think we all need to think about that and isolate them and share them in the newsletter and so forth, because there's a tumult of bad news, obviously, on the Paris Convention, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what I would like us to keep in mind, is just things to prompt engagement and opportunities. What we did tonight with our great speaker, for example, is a great example of coalition work which is, I think, going to be indispensable strategically going forward so that groups can reinforce each other. And I think all of the local groups have this problem that I'm aware of. And, I think we'll gradually get back to it, but it's going to take, a lot of different carrots to, have fun at meetings and open those opportunities at the Plano Library, for example, that Jay Ashbury was talking about. I have a
In
local
person.
library we can use as well.
Yeah, in person, I know that like we are so tired of just staring at people's faces. So the in person is a totally different like vibe, like when you meet people. I remember before it was so lovely, people will drive from so far off, and we used to meet at 9 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. And it was lovely, like a room would be full, almost 30, 40 people, jam-packed.
I do have two other thoughts on that. One is that we ought to repoll our entire membership as to the best meeting time, because it's quite evident to me, at least,
Yeah.
that this is not the best time. But secondly, Jeffrey, you said something about purging our membership rolls. If I understood you correctly, I've always been against that, because the ones that are inactive are, they're important. They showed enough passion and interest in the issues to have signed up. And I think that the question is, how do we reactivate them with a combination of calls? And I'd be happy to do that. Lauren, is our membership and engagement chair. You're personally interested and good at it, Jay Ashry, and the chairs are always, that's an important call. If there are particularly valuable people we can identify. So that's
And
something to think about.
sorry.
Strategically.
Yeah, definitely. And if you remember when Roger was here, remember we had a group called Rapid Engagement Team. You were part of it, I
I
remember.
did call a lot, talked to a lot of people, and we got some.
Yeah, we used to talk to so many of the new ones, and they would like that. I thought we never had that. We had to build ourselves. But now people want to be like, when you do, some do act up as if they are the grand people and I'm the beg, please come,
Right.
then. But yeah, you'll find different people react differently, but it does help.
And we need a value
Yeah.
proposition to offer them, which would be
Yes.
something like in coalition with,
Others.
Environment Texas, et cetera. If there are activities, that's why I asked about this lobbying day in person.
Yeah.
It could be extremely motivational. People would jump at a
Can
chance.
I
Maybe.
jump in and just ask that we continue this discussion in our executive team meeting?
Of course,
Yeah.
of course. Sorry.
Kind of finish up with announcements and,
Okay, sorry about that.
of course.
Yes.
Okay. So if there's no more announcements, then I'll finish on this. Okay. Thank you. I don't mean to cut you off.
No problem.
We have a lot of national actions, and that was in a February 18th email. I'll drop my email in the chat in a second. However, if for those maybe tuning in later, if you're not getting emails, or anybody with us right now, Tony, if anybody is not getting these, please let me know, and I'll see if we can get you hooked into the national email chain. But there are actions definitely available right away in that email that went out on the 18th, and that was yesterday. We have a national book club, and Jayashree, I don't know if you're kind of look at that also.
Yeah.
With your book club activities to, maybe coordinate or do similar things or join them.
I am member of that too.
Great. And then there is actually a take action section in these emails. Let's see, where is it? So it's like a quick click. One is urge Congress to protect funds for climate solutions and clean energy. Not that we're expecting a lot out of Congress, but it does make a difference when we communicate with them. Urge the EPA directly to set strong limits on emissions. That's another one. Tell world leaders phase out fossil fuels and continue our transition to clean energy. One more for the World Bank. So just an example, there are things going on. Quick actions, send a message, sign a petition, share that petition with friends and family to keep the conversation going. And then I think coming out of Earth Day, we will, see what kind of local actions we can participate in. There is a climate boot camp coming up that was also in an email from the 17th and is also posted on Reality Hub. So please check in with Reality Hub and, for things happening. It's definitely important to stay involved and aware of what's going on our national level. And that is all I have for my announcements. And I think,
Mike,
yes.
I'm
yeah.
so behind on keeping up with all the email newsletters, and this is terrible because I'm a person who writes, but it'd be super awesome if you would put a few of these bullet type things in an article in our email, just to reiterate, here's some actions you can take this month or something, because that's
Sure.
gold. I love it. I was thinking, okay, I need to find all these. Oh, where are they? Oh, I'm so behind. If you would just make it easy.
One suggestion me too, like I have so many other organizations I work. So what I do is I start the ones which I'm interested in. So in the end, it's not possible to go through each and every email you get from Climate Reality or the other places. So I start the ones that I need to take action or look back again. And then in the end, just bring up the star ones and you have access to it immediately, because everyone else is busy. It's not that because we are doing it, okay, I can do this for you, I can do this for you. Think of that too. Everyone is busy. So
Final
one has to
thought
be active. Yeah.
along these lines is the federal coordination of defense call that we had. Jay Ashry was on that. And I think it's open to all members. It was, in my opinion, extremely inspirational and concrete on actions that are happening. Climate Reality National is really aware of the need to be bolder at this time. And so that's going to be an important call. It's every 2 weeks. We ought to make sure we have a regular link to that. Unless I'm mistaken, I think anybody from Climate Reality chapters can join it. They had 100 or so people on the last one, which is small. But it could be like these calls that you see with thousands of people on it and really build up to producing some action. So that's one we should be aware of and publicize and encourage people to attend.
Thank you. Okay, if there is no other announcements, then we can turn it over to Jeffrey for our closing.
Well, I actually wrote a 5-page thing, which I'm not going to read, but that was connected to my 75 years on and what's changed in that amount of time, and how actually I went all the way back to my father's birth in 1925 and basically concluded that that everything that I had worked for in all those years is being rolled back right now. But instead, I'm going to read you another poem by Rosemary Watola Trummer. It's called This is one. She writes a poem a day and sends it in emails. And so I put her name in the chat, and you can look her up and follow her, and she'll send you an email. This was from last Thursday. How We Change the World Even in a Time of Intolerance. It's the name of the poem. She starts with the quotation from Joy Harjo, who was the 23rd US Poet Laureate, who said, "We all have a part in shifting the story. There is, in an overfull classroom, a woman teaching not only history, but compassion. There's a barista making hearts in the foam of every cappuccino she serves. There's a man helping another man on crutches as he struggles to cross the icy street. There's a library room full of women chanting about praying for their enemy. There are students raising money to help those with breast cancer and AIDS. Two girls are laughing for the joy of laughing till their faces are tear-streaked and their ribs and bellies are sore. There's a poet who pours courage and music into every word she shares with the world. And another woman hears those words and thinks, me, that poet is talking to me. This is how we change the world. One kind act, one true word, one long laugh at a time. Because now that woman is ablaze with wondering, what is my part in shifting this story? Rosemary Watola Trummer.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I just saw she has her blog is 100 Falling Veils.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Beautiful.
Jeffrey, if you want, you can share with those who are interested what you wrote for your 75th birthday. I would like to read it.
I would too.
All right. What's the best way to share that? Should I?
Email it to, can I put,
who do I email it to send it to everybody? Because I don't have everybody's email.
I can, Chip, put your email again for him, and I'm going to put those, at least these 5 of us can get it. If you're interested, put your email here.
Okay. Well, I know
I'm putting
I know I have Mike's email because he sends me emails, but
I suspect the whole executive committee at a minimum would be very interested in seeing it. I don't see any downside to sending it
Yeah.
like the committee. I certainly.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd kind of like to have a group email, available for things like that come up.
I could send copies of my poems to it. You can always.
Yeah. Oh,
That would be
I would,
great.
that would be lovely.
You know,
And
maybe we could-
Jan,
maybe-
we do have a group email for the executive committee. So once
okay.
you are, like, once Mike adds you, you will get everything that the executives get it.
That's great. That's great. I was also thinking maybe it could go into the newsletter. That was really special.
Yeah,
That one would be good for the newsletter because it's short but powerful.
beautiful. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. I'll send it.
We can send it to Paula Day if you don't have her email, but she's
I have her email. I can put it here. Do you want me to, Jeffrey?
Yeah, I don't care. You can send it to everybody. So I'll just after we get off here, I'll go to my computer where it's a little more easier to have
Okay.
access to it.
Thank you so much.
that was great.
Yeah, my the final words of my 4.5-page essay, it has to do with what was my purpose in being born, and I check in on what is my purpose when I was born, what was a purpose at 25, at 50, and now that I'm 75, what is my purpose right now? And my purpose right now is to resist and persist with curiosity, compassion, and courage.
That's great.
So
Very good.
all right, I will send that information off.
And can we share it with people outside of the group if we want to? Because
Yeah.
that's very relevant
Yeah.
to a lot of people I
It's
know.
very pretty. Yeah, definitely.
Sure. I've shared it to a couple of different networks that I'm part of. So
Thank you.
Yeah, I love your poems.